Hello, Ms. Farmer. No, we're. Good morning.
May I approach?
Yes.
This is for Brian Oxford.
Okay.
I believe Andy was gonna go first. I think Frank is busy in other hearings right
Okay.
now. So we'll go after.
So Andy's is the one, Richard, is Andy, okay. Janet's in here, Ms. Farmer's in here.
I heard her.
So she's deferring to you, Ms. Smith.
Yes, or that was my cue to pop
you.
on.
Appreciate it. We got the vehicle moved, Tree's got some people signed on, or got him.
Sign up,
We had to put him in a different spot.
the contractor.
The attorney,
Yes,
the
yeah.
contractor, we already put in a different spot. The attorney,
You know, he's logged in here. So,
yeah, we took him and stuck him in the hall.
okay, in the assessment room.
Yeah, because the extra monitor was in Judge Porter's. So we pulled it out of Judge Porter's.
Okay.
So we're all good to go now. Yeah, because he thought he was gonna sit in there and hang.
Here's the stipulation that she gave me. She marked it too for early.
Yeah, I don't know if she wants to admit this.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Smith. I have the stipulation. I'm guessing you don't want to admit it, but rather would file it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, I think my
Is it
volume's off.
running
There we go. There we go. Sorry, my volume was off.
Yes,
All right.
sorry.
I know.
That's
No, it's-
correct. Thank you, Judge.
This is the social.
I have a social. No, this is. Oxford. Okay.
Yeah, she marked it as two, but
It won't. It doesn't matter
it
to
doesn't
you.
matter to me.
Okay, it doesn't matter to me either. Would you like me to file it with the exhibit sticker or without the exhibit sticker?
Without it, it makes a difference.
Doesn't, it still goes on file. Mr. Clason, you're gonna have to unmute yourself. There we
Can you
go.
hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, I can hear you. Mr. Gladstone, can you hear me? Oh, Chris. I think probably the volume's just turned off.
Yeah. I can't hear the judge.
Did you turn the volume? Here.
Oh, maybe that's the issue. Maybe that's the issue.
Click that.
Okay.
No, you need to.
Oh,
Oh, you got it.
okay.
Can you hear me, Mr. Gladstone?
I can hear you now, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Frankie.
You're welcome.
I'm so tired of hearing it, but this is the new normal. Oh. All right, so, and then you have the social history, right? Okay, so we're here on a determined sentence probation transfer hearing. Is that correct?
That's correct, Judge.
All right, are we ready to proceed?
State's ready.
Juvenile's ready, Judge.
you ready? All right. So the court will call cause number 323-106-326-17. This is still in the matter of Jarrett Michael Early. We are here on a 54-051 transfer to determinate sentence probation to appropriate district court. And so, Mr. Early, you're Mr. Early, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is your parent here by chance?
Yes, he is. His dad's here.
His dad is here? Okay. You can leave the microphone on. So where is dad? Is dad sitting next to you or?
He can.
Okay. Right, yeah, Dad, why don't you come up and sit next to him? You're still dad. Where's that? I'm sorry, there's a little section of code that I remember I saw the other day. I want to make sure. All right. All right, so Mr. Early, there's a couple things I want to go over with you. This is a hearing to decide whether your probation should end here as a juvenile or you transfer to the adult criminal district courts for supervision for the remainder of your probation sentence. Okay, and that's all this is about. We've already, back in May of 18, was decided that you actually did violate the law and were adjudicated delinquent and placed on probation. Okay, you do have certain rights in this matter. You have the right to remain silent, guaranteed by the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution. You do not have to say anything at all. Right? You do have a right to confrontation. So any kind of witness that is adverse to you, so it says anything unfavorable about you, you have the right to look them in the eye and confront them and ask them questions through cross-examination through your attorney, Mr. Gladstone. And you do have a right to this contested hearing, right? That's why we're here today. That's guaranteed by the 10th Amendment. You do not have a right to a jury. This is simply before the judge. It's for me to make my decision, right? And then what I want to let you know is this hearing has to be done before your 19th birthday, all right? And I have to make a decision whether to discharge your probation or to transfer your probation to the adult criminal district court. The law also says you do not have to violate your probation in any way for me to transfer you. I can just transfer you even if you've done your probation perfectly. Okay? This is just me looking at the circumstances and deciding, but if let's say an offense was so serious that I want to transfer a child, I can do that just based on the offense itself. Of course, we're here because there's an issue the attorneys want to present to me for me to make my decision. All right. If I do transfer you, then what's going to happen is there will be scheduled an intake with adult probation before your 19th birthday, and the Monday following your 19th birthday, you will go downtown to the adult probation office, the community supervision office, and start your supervision in the adult courts. All right. Okay. All right, so the court will make a finding that this child with a date of birth is July 9th, 2001, was previously adjudicated of 3 counts of aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon, finding on May 9th of 2018 for an offense date of November 5th of 2017. And on that same date, this court placed a child or committed the child to the Texas Juvenile Justice Department for a period of 10 years with a possibility of transfer to the institutional division of the Texas Department of Corrections. But that commitment was probated for a period of 10 years with the possibility of transfer to the adult criminal court at age 19. Wow, and tomorrow is his 19th birthday. Okay, so the court will find that he is not yet 19 years old. Okay, any opening statements, Ms. Smith?
None, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Gladstone, well,
Judge, I'll waive.
all right, Ms. Smith, any exhibits or witnesses?
Your Honor, state would call Joanna Cook.
All right, Ms. Cook, if you can raise your right hand. You solemnly swear with the testimony you're about to give at this cause currently at trial that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, thank you. You may lower your hand. Ms. Smith, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Cook, how are you employed?
I'm a juvenile probation officer with Tarrant County.
And is your client Jarrett Early, the respondent here today?
Yes.
In preparation for this hearing, did you prepare a social history?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, state would like to offer into evidence petitioner's exhibit number 1, the social history.
No objection, Judge.
All right, petitioner's 1 is submitted.
Thank you.
One second.
Ms. Cook,
Ms. Smith, one. Okay, she had to hand it to me. All right, now please proceed.
okay. Ms. Cook, could you tell the court, I know he just went over it briefly, but when was he officially placed on probation?
He was placed on probation on May 9th of 2018.
Okay, and for what offenses?
3 counts of aggravated robbery.
Could you give the court a brief description of what those details were for the aggravated robberies?
Yes, on November 5th, 2017, Arlington Police Department were called to the St. George Food Mart around 10:25 p.m. In the call, it stated that 2 males wearing masks were attempting to rob the store, and one of them had a gun and demanded money. They got away, and then just a few hours later, around midnight on November 6th, a 7-Eleven stated basically the same thing, that a black male and a white male robbed them at gunpoint. And then on November 7th, 2017, at 8 o'clock at night, Dalworthington Gardens dispatched to Specs Liquor Store, saying that a black male had a gun on her and demanded cash. As they were leaving, the officers were able to see the 3 companions. There was a driver, Jared, who was identified as the lookout, and then they were all running to a nearby duplex. Once they got to the duplex, they were able to arrest them all, and they found a gun as well as $179 on one of the other companions.
Okay. And kind of before we start getting into his probation here in Tarrant County, does the respondent have any prior criminal history?
He came to our department on interim supervision. He had a history with Brazos County. You want me to go over that?
Yes, ma'am. If you could tell the court what he was on probation for.
So he initially, and then this is on the 3rd page of the social history, he has several referrals to Brazos County. He was originally placed on deferred prosecution for theft of property, 50 to 500, in May of 15. And then he was adjudicated delinquent and given 11 months, 30 days probation for assault causes bodily injury in July of 15.
Because the court reporters take this down when you're reading, we tend
I'm
to
sorry.
read a little bit faster. If you can just slow down. Thank you.
And then he had another theft of property in October of 15, 100 to 750. That was dismissed by their DA. And then the case that he was transferred here on interim supervision was credit card, debit card abuse. And that was June of 16 and given 6 months probation. So then he was supervised on interim supervision for about 2 months, and then that closed. And then the only other thing that we have is on September 2nd, 2018, he has a theft 100 to 750. And that was the date of the offense. The arrest date was May 5th of 2019. And that case is still pending with Tarrant County.
Okay. I do want to talk about the theft case, but a little bit later. Since being placed on probation, how has he done? Can you give the court kind of an overview at first?
Yes. And I just want Judge Kim to know that Ms. Judd is here because she was Jarrett's probation officer for the majority of his probation. And then once she was promoted to supervisor in the end of January, I inherited his case in February. So she knows a lot of history as well. But Jarrett has done exceptionally well. He has done all of the requirements of his supervision. He has graduated from high school. He has held a job the duration of his probation. He currently works for General Motors, making $14 an hour. He also, previous to that, has been a forklift driver. And one thing that I think is admirable of Jarrett is that he gets a new job, but he does not quit his previous job until he gets that job. He's worked as an assistant manager at Sonic, in several different warehouses, driving the forklift. He has been available for every visit. He's sometimes at a day's notice, and he is the one who a lot of times calls to check in to make sure that he's fulfilling his probation terms. He's completed all his restitution, community service. He's done very well.
Who does he currently reside with?
He lives with his paternal grandmother and grandfather.
Okay. And I know that his father is with him here today. How has that relationship been like? Can you tell the court?
I have never met Jarrett's father until today. Ms. Judd might be able to speak a little bit more about his relationship with his father. To my understanding, it's kind of been on and off, as he hasn't been in the home very much, but I don't know more than that.
Okay. How is I guess, would you say his grandmother is the person who is primarily with him?
Yes.
How has she reported to you that he's done on probation?
Grandmother has reported to me every time we talk, pretty much, that she has just seen a major change in his maturity and his responsibility. Something else I failed to mention, Jarrett saved his money from all of his jobs and purchased a car with his own money, and he pays his car payment and his insurance on his own.
Okay. Did you say that he received his high school diploma?
Yes.
And where did he receive that from?
He received his diploma from an online program called St. George Online.
And I believe you said this, but just to be clear, is he current on all probation fees, or if restitution is owed?
Yes. The only restitution Jarrett owed was from Brazos County, and Brazos County actually allowed him to do a lot of extra community service hours to get that paid. And I think he did more than 70 hours to complete that.
Okay. I know you had said this earlier, but just kind of quickly, you said that he currently has a theft charge pending in adult court downtown. Is that right?
Yes.
When was it alleged that he committed that offense?
The date of the offense is September 2nd, 2018.
Okay. And he was placed on probation May 9th of 2018. Is that correct?
Correct.
So just a few short months after that, he was out there committing a theft.
Correct.
However, it did not get referred to our department until, when was the date that you had said?
Well, it never was referred to our department because he was 17 at the time of the offense. We discovered it on April 3rd of this year when his history was ran in preparation for this hearing.
So he never told his probation officer about the arrest?
Correct.
Is that a condition that he's supposed to keep the court or his probation officer apprised of breaking the law?
It's really not a term of his probation. He's ordered not to commit any new law violations, but there is not a specific order that says they have to communicate with us if they've had an interaction with law enforcement.
Okay. But regardless, he did not tell his probation officer?
Correct.
Whenever you found out about it, did you refer that to the DA's office as a probation violation?
No, I did not. I did email the chief DA to let him know of it, but we did not file a technical.
Can I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
1 second, Mr. Gutson. All right, Mr. Gladstone, cross.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Cook, how long have you been supervising Jarrett?
Since February 6th of this year.
Okay, so only 3 or 4 months?
Correct.
And how often do you make contact with Jared?
Well, normally Jarrett was on minimum supervision, which was because of his age, one time a month. But because of COVID, and so that was initially, I saw Jarrett at home once with his grandmother, and then I drove to a McDonald's to meet him on his break when he was at work. But other than that, we've been talking weekly phone call since the COVID virus.
And was he on minimum supervision because he had achieved that, or just because of y'all's procedures?
No, because he achieved it. In fact, he was on maximum supervision which is 4 times a month, from May 9th of 2018 until August of 2018. And then he was on medium, which is 3 times a month, from August 1st until November 1st of 2018. And then starting November 1st of 2018 until January of 2020, he was on minimum supervision. So that was 2 times a month because of how well he had done.
Okay. And you followed his progress in the last 3 or 4 months?
Yes.
What has he achieved in the last 3 or 4 months that he hadn't achieved prior to that you're aware of?
Really just getting the job at GM. I mean, he had, I will say that he was involved in a hit and run. He was not the hitter. He was the victim in that. And he had to learn the adult lesson of how to then take care of it. And, you know, this car that he had worked really hard to pay for out of his savings was greatly damaged. And through his resources, because of his job and with his grandparents, he was able to get his car fixed on his own. And then he got the job. He was working at the forklift manufacturing plant at that point, not the forklift man, the tire manufacturing plant as a forklift driver. And then he just recently got the job at GM.
Okay. And he's here with his dad and his grandmother. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Smith asked about his history with his dad. His dad has been kind of in and out of jail and in and out of prison. Is that correct?
Yes.
Matter of fact, he just got out of incarceration just a few days ago.
Yes.
And I understand that Jared also doesn't have contact or contact with his mom.
Correct.
And where does his mom live?
The family believes she's in a rehab facility in North Carolina.
And she also has a history of maybe criminal activity and drugs?
Yes, I believe so.
So he's been living with his grandma for how many years? Do you know?
I believe for the last 1.5 to 2 years. I know he was with her kind of. The family used her house as kind of a home base, and Jarrett, in the beginning of his probation, when he was on interim with us, he would live with his dad, but for the most part, he was with his grandmother.
Okay. And you get the impression from the grandmother that Jared is very independent, that he's not really relying on them. He's really doing all this stuff himself.
Yes.
Okay. And I understand that grandma and grandpa are planning on moving out of state pretty soon.
Yes.
Okay. And has Jared talked to you about getting his own housing?
Yes, he's talked to me about getting his own apartment.
And has he made, do you know if he's made progress on that?
I do not know.
Okay. All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Jared as a probationer?
If 10 is the highest, I would say, I mean, other than that theft offense, that's his only hiccup. And that happened over 2 years ago.
Okay. All right.
So a 9, I would say.
9. Okay. And that, again, the theft thing was shortly after he got on probation, right?
Correct.
Has he picked up any kind of ticket since then? Any kind of Class Cs that show up on the record? Any warrants, anything of that sort at all?
Nothing that shows up on his record. He did report to me that he had a speeding ticket that he was taking care of.
Okay. Do you feel like Jared needs further probation, further supervision based on his situation right now?
Our department does not believe that Jared is in need of any more supervision.
Okay. What is the purpose of supervision? Is it basically to get a kid's attention and get him in the right direction?
Yes.
And do you feel like either y'all achieved that or Jared's achieved that?
I do. I think Jared, in preparation for this hearing, I did a lot of reading of Ms. Judd's crons and my own. And I feel like if you can look back at all the crons, he's really made a transformation. He's extremely mature. He's extremely respectful. And I mean, I feel like he has really checked all the boxes of doing everything that we've asked him to do.
Okay. And I also understand he's got support of a girlfriend.
Yes.
And she's a college student.
Yes.
Pass the witness, Judge.
Smith?
Just one moment, Your Honor. Nothing further, Your Honor.
So Ms. Cook, I'm looking at social history, and it was saying there was no romantic relationship, but I guess there is now. How recent is the relationship?
Are you speaking about his father?
No, romantic relationship?
Oh, I just learned about his girlfriend, I would say a month ago is when he told me about her.
That's fine. So tell me about this theft case. It was from 2 years ago.
Yes, Your Honor. When we ran his history in preparation for this hearing on April 3rd, we learned that he had, from September 2nd, 2018, a theft 100 to 750. I called Jarrett that day.
September 5th, 2018.
September 2nd, 2018 is the date of the offense.
Okay.
I called Jarrett that day. He was extremely apologetic, and he thought that we would have known. He thought that being that we all work for Tarrant County, we would have known that way. He also thought he remembered telling probation staff, but there's no record of that.
The official offense that he's charged with?
It's theft 100 to 750. And Jarrett's words to me were that he had gone to purchase a cell phone in an OfferUp ad, and it didn't happen the way it was supposed to. But that's the only information that I have. And also that he retained an attorney to fight that case and is still pending downtown.
You don't know which court it's in downtown, do you?
I do not.
All right. Now, you were speaking really fast. I really had trouble keeping up.
I'm sorry.
What was his juvenile history before this offense?
The history he has with Brazos County.
Yes.
He has a theft of property 50 to 500. That is May 5th of 2015. And he was given deferred prosecution for that.
Okay.
Then he had a runaway. Then he had July 2nd, 2015, an assault causes bodily injury. He was adjudicated delinquent for that and given 11 months and 30 days probation. Then he had another runaway, then a violation, and then October 19th of 2015, a theft of property, 100 to 750 that was dismissed. And then June 1st, 2016, he had a credit card, debit card abuse and was given, was found adjudicated delinquent and given 6 months probation. And that is the interim supervision that was transferred from Brazos County to our county, in which this judge supervised him for 2 months.
Okay. Ms. Smith, any other witnesses or exhibits?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Gladstone?
I'd call Miss Judd.
Ms. Judd, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give at this cause currently at trial that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gladstone, please
Thank
proceed.
you, Judge. Miss Judge, would you state your name
Leanna Judd.
and how are you employed?
I'm a supervisor of the Family Partnership Program with Tarrant County Juvenile Services.
And how long have you had that position?
That position I've had since February 10th of this year.
Okay. Prior to that, how long were you a probation officer here in the department?
For over 26 years.
And how many kids do you think you've had on probation?
Wow. Upwards of 1,000, I would assume.
Okay. All right. And when did you get Jared on your caseload?
He was assigned to me on May 15th of 2018.
Okay. And Where was his head? What was that? What was his attitude when he came to you as a early probationer?
As I had supervised him previously for a couple of months, the year before, I believe, or 2 years before, there was a bit of a, oh, wow, we're back at this. He was not quite 17 and was quite a bit of that teenage mindset of, I can't believe I have to listen to authority, and I can't believe I got to deal with this. But he was always respectful in all of my interactions with him. It was just kind of upset with the whole overall situation.
When Judge Minikos put him on probation, what was required of him early on as part of his probation?
I'm sorry, say that again.
When Judge Minikos put him on probation, what were the terms? What were the special programs he was to participate in? Are you checking?
Yes, and I'm sorry,
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
have that in front of me. I know he was placed on the probation. He had the 10 years of determinate sentence. Just the typical terms. I don't believe he had any special orders. He had restitution from the previous one that he was still that had completed. But other than that, it was the typical terms of reporting, staying out of trouble, no drug use, reporting to me, school, etc.
Okay. And again, when he got on probation, was he living with his grandmother?
At that time, yes, his father was as well. They were staying with the grandparents. And then Jared has stayed with them while Dad had left and come back.
The grandparents had been the primary caretakers.
Yes.
Dad was in and out of jail during some of these periods.
I know he was in and out of the home. I know a couple of times I believe he had been in jail, but mostly was just out of the home.
Have you had any contact with Jared's mom at all during the probation period?
No, according to the records we had received initially from Brazos County, I believe CPS. I don't know if she officially terminated her rights, but she's been out of the picture for many years.
How far along in the probation did Jared start turning it around?
I would say right at the end of 2018. When school started at the end of August of 2018, there was some back and forth. His grandmother lives in the Arlington High School attendance zone. That is where he had gone previously and where he knew all of the kids that he ran with. He didn't want to return to that school. I remember there was some conversations that he had with me that some of the kids he had been getting in trouble with were kind of out to get him. And so he didn't want to return there. So for that first semester of school, he was working on, thought he would maybe get his GED. And so we did that for a few months. And so probably right at the end of 2018, very early 2019, I began to see some real change with Jared.
Who came up with the idea of getting his high school diploma online? I mean, it's kind of an unusual program. Who has that?
I believe he got it from his older sister. He had been talking about the GED program, and for all of that fall, I was talking with him about the options for that. I gave him some online information. He was doing that, but he needed a letter from the court in order to do it. He was just 17. He couldn't take the test till he was 18. We had that for him. And then his older sister actually, probably around February or January, started talking that she had found that program and had achieved her diploma. So he followed with her. And I know I had a note that I believe it was like March 21st of 2019 that he showed me his diploma. So he got it.
How long did it take him to do that?
Within just a couple of months, once he actually got into that program.
Okay. And he had a job as soon as he started on probation with you?
Yes, he's had several jobs throughout the entire time. I know he worked at Six Flags. He worked at Sonic for a while. He had been hired at Papa Murphy's, but they never put him on the schedule. So he actually found the job at Sonic as a cook and a car hop. He actually did so well there. He was willing to take extra shifts. His manager very heavily relied on him to do that, and he was quickly promoted to, I believe, basically a shift manager. Got those responsibilities. And then, as Ms. Cook had mentioned, he was always finding another job, but didn't quit the one he had. So he worked the entire time that he was still on supervision.
And generally, the jobs he got, each job was successfully for a better paying job.
Yes. Yes.
What other kind of things did y'all work on as part of his probation?
A lot of it with Jarrett was just, we talked a lot about what it would look like when he was adult, once he reached, 18, 19. He had met a lot of frustration with his dad over the years. He talked a lot about, could he at some point go live with his sister, who I believe is 2 or 3 years older than him, and still was in College Station. What would that look like? He and I talked a lot about how, because he's on the probation that he's on, he couldn't just move out of grandma's house at 18. He couldn't just leave the county. So even though he knew that that wasn't something he could do, he was still taking those steps. He, talked about what it would look like to have an apartment, what it would look like to, get his own place. So we had a lot of kind of, I guess you would, independent living skills conversations, what really that looks like. Once he started working, he was saving for a car. Almost most of my visits at that point, every time I was there, he's showing me his bank account online, showing me how much money he's saved up, or here's the money I'm about to put in that I got from my last check. When he purchased his car last year, he was very, very proud of himself for that. It was at a small dealership, the Tote the Note dealership. His grandpa or grandma helped him with the down payment, but he's making the payments.
Did he talk to you at all about possibly advancing his education as well?
He did talk for a while about possibly going to the community college and getting the basics, getting an associate's degree. And that was something that, he knew was out there. His sister was in college, and it's something that he thought about, but frankly, with him working full time and for the most part, Jarrett, when he was working in warehouses, I mean, he was working 10 to 12 hour days, 6, 7 days, 5 or 6 days a week. And so it was just a matter of work and making money to support himself and help out his grandmom and granddad.
You've heard the testimony that his grandpa and grandma are planning on moving. He's going to be getting his own apartment. Do you think he has the maturity and the skills to be independent at this point?
I believe he does. I believe he does. The Jarrett that I started working with in May of 2018, and the Jarrett that I passed off to Ms. Cook in January, February of 2020 is a much different young man. He's very aware of what he needs to do to take care of himself. He has the skills to find and maintain a job, get along with people. Over the years, he's had managers and coworkers that he didn't like, but he handled all of that appropriately. He's never had an issue with his temper like that. He's a very respectful young man. He's very, Ms. Cook mentioned, he reaches out to us to set his appointments. He texted me his work schedule every single week, the entire time I worked with him.
Do you feel like he needs further probation?
I don't believe he does.
You think he can do these things without being on probation?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. I mean, a lot of kids will come in and put on a good show for a while and say they turned around. You think it's pretty concrete with Jarrett?
Like I said, with Jarrett, it's been pretty much consistent for the last year and a half. I believe it's hard to fake it that long. Once I started seeing the changes with him, they stayed there. He didn't revert back.
Have you met his girlfriend?
I have not. That's since I left him.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Pass the witness, Judge.
Smith?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Judd, I'm sorry, I was having some audio issues in the very beginning, but I think you said maybe at the beginning of his probation, it kind of got off to a rocky start.
Yes.
Okay. Is it true that he got a tattoo before he turned the age of 18?
Possibly, probably. I don't remember exactly when, but I know he has a tattoo.
Okay. Do you happen to have your crons in front of you?
Let me get there. Okay.
I believe it was July 18th of 2018. He was asking you if he could get a tattoo, and you had explained that he had to wait until the age of 18 to legally get one, but he had already done so.
Do you have a specific date? I'm sorry, you said July.
18th of 2018.
Okay. I'm just looking at it. Okay, yes, I am reading my notes. I do recall that.
Okay.
I see that.
And then looking a little bit later on in that year, October 4th of 2018, is it true that he did not show up for his meeting with you?
October 4th,
Yes, ma'am, October 4th.
attempted home visit. Yes, that's true.
And at that time, his grandmother did not know where he was?
Yes, according to my notes, she said he had left the evening before.
Okay. And she had asked him to come back, but he did not follow through with his curfew?
Right, yes.
Okay. Do you recall Jared ever telling you about the theft charge, either in 2018 or whenever he was arrested in May of 2019?
I don't recall that. We had general conversations over the times. You know, I know when I believe the speeding ticket, I think he might have gotten when he was still with me. But I do not recall any conversation with him specifically about the theft from September of 2018.
And it's fair to say that had that conversation, excuse me, that had that conversation occurred, it would have been noted in your crons?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think it's odd that he would tell you about a speeding ticket, but he would not tell you about a theft charge?
Yes, the speeding ticket, he wasn't driving at that point. So that happened much later, but yes, I mean, if he, was telling it again, that is not something that is, it's not a term of their probation to notify us of any police involvement. It's just, they're not supposed to break the law.
Sure. In your experience as a probation officer, whenever people or kids on probation do commit other offenses, are they normally forthcoming with you, or is it normal that they would try to hide that?
For the most part, I would say they more try to hide it, especially when it's an adult thing. They don't come to our system. We don't know it unless they tell us.
Okay.
For a ticket.
And then the speeding ticket, he wasn't driving at that time. Did you mean he didn't have a driver's license?
No. In the time of the theft in 2018, he was not driving. He got his driver's license last year before he got his car.
Okay.
So the speeding ticket was after that, yes.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Gladstone? Mr. Gladstone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Judd, this theft took place kind of early in his probation. Is that correct?
Yes, apparently.
Okay. And when did he tell you about the speeding ticket? Was this much later?
Yes, and I don't recall a date. I know it was just a conversation once he had been driving that he had gotten pulled over.
Okay. As he developed and matured and worked with you as in probation, did he tell you other things about blemishes, that the bad things that were happening in his life? Was he forthcoming about the good and the bad and the ugly?
I believe so. For the most part, as I mentioned earlier, after we got into early 2019, things were going very well for Jared. I know some of the concerns he had, he did talk about his frustrations with his dad, and he was very open with that. He would get, his younger brother lives with the grandparents. He kind of talked about, situations with that, nothing at all major, but he and I had a good open relationship from the almost 2 years I supervised him.
Did he talk to you about being able to leave all his bad influences, these bad friends behind?
definitely, like I said, in that first few months that I worked with him, he struggled with that a little bit. He knew he needed to get away from it. The hard part was that was where school would be, and so he would do that. He would spend some time with his friends on the weekend, but be with grandma on the week, during the week. But once those friends really showed that the negative influence, he cut ties with them fairly quickly at that point.
That's all the questions I have, Judge. Pass the witness.
Smith?
Nothing further.
All right. Mr. Gladstone, please call your next witness.
Judge, I'd call Jared, please.
All right. Jared, if you can please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give at this cause current at trial that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Please lower your hand. Mr. Gladstone, please proceed.
Judge, you understand today the judge can either release you from the probation and move your probation downtown. You're clear on that, right?
Yes, sir.
What are you asking the judge to do today?
I would like to get it released.
Okay. Do you feel like you're a different person than the person that jacked those 3 stores?
Most definitely.
Who was the person that you were involved with that day, those days?
I honestly don't remember his name.
How'd you meet the kid?
Through school.
Was he older or younger or the same age as yourself?
He was 1 year older.
When did the little light bulb go off in your head saying you needed to get on with your life? When did you decide to start making some of these changes?
When I finally realized what can really happen to me if I didn't straighten up, and what if I didn't grow up, and what happens if I'm 18 and still doing the same thing and my grandparents leave, I don't have support no more. I had to get out on my own and be independent.
All right, let's talk about your education first. You realized that you went ahead and got your diploma. Why did you do that rather than your GED?
Because I figured I can get better jobs with a diploma instead of a GED.
And tell us a little bit about the program you went through.
Well, it was nothing too serious. It wasn't nothing too hard. It wasn't, you took a 50 question test. You studied for months, 2-3 months, and then you took the test at the end of the period. And then if you passed, you got your diploma. If you didn't pass, you failed. And I passed. So I ended up getting my diploma. So
you actually have a paper diploma from somewhere?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Has that been a factor in you getting some of these good jobs recently?
Yes, sir.
How so? Oh,
Because they asked, like the warehouse jobs, GM, they asked, do you have a diploma? Is your diploma in your resume? And I say yes. And it just helps.
when you've gotten these jobs, have you been honest with them and told them that you're on probation? Was that a factor in getting
Yes,
these
sir.
jobs?
Yes,
They
sir.
all knew,
Sir?
even a GM?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. The issue has come up regarding drugs. Are you randomly drug tested at your work these days?
Some of the jobs have drug tested me, but I don't get randomly drug tests. They drug test me when I start and I pass, and then I just start working. And most of the time they don't end up drug testing again, but I've been drug tested a couple times at a couple jobs.
Real briefly, go through your history of jobs that you've had since you've been on probation. What's the progression of it?
I've worked at Sonic. I was there a year, almost a year. It was over a year, I think. And then, like Ms. Judd said, I was working as a car hop and a cook, and then I went up to shift lead, and then I saved up money for my car at Sonic. And then after I quit Sonic, before I quit Sonic, I started a new job at a warehouse. It was a paint and industrial warehouse. And that's when I learned how to drive my first forklift. And then they gave me my certificate to drive forklifts. I learned how to drive 4 different kinds of forklifts. And then after that, before I quit that job, I started a job at a wheel and tire warehouse, making $15 an hour. I started at that one. And then I've been at that one recently for a good 3 or 4 months, maybe longer. And then before I quit that job, I started working at General Motors.
How did you line up a job at General Motors? It's kind of a gem job. How did you do that?
I went through a temp service. And so then I got hired on through the temp service. So
So you went to a temp service and they lined you up the job?
yes, sir.
Are you full-time now? Are you
I'm full-time now.
okay. And how much are you making an hour now?
14.
And how much you're gonna make at your next raise?
It'll be 16, I think. I'm not too positive.
You know when that's due?
No, sorry, I don't.
Okay. Tell the court what happened with the theft charge that happened after you got on probation. Tell the judge what went down.
Well, I wanted a phone. I wasn't working. I was doing bad. Like Ms. Judd said, I still had rough patches in my life and still was going through things. So I met up with this guy to get a phone. I snatched the phone. I gave the phone back, and then I ran home. And then a year later, or however long it was later,
Did you actually take the phone from the person that day
I did take it, yes, sir. But then I ended up handing it back to him.
as part of the same episode, as part of the same scene?
Yes, sir. All in the same, all at the same time. I didn't run off and give it back. I didn't go somewhere then meet back up. When I took it, I gave it back and then ran home.
Okay. And you were charged sometime later?
Yes, sir.
And that's still pending?
Yes, sir.
And regardless of what the judge does today, you realize that you're gonna have to take care of that downtown?
Yes, sir.
Has this been pending for 2 years because of the other probation? Is that why hadn't been disposed of?
That has something to do with it. Yes, sir. They said they want to see what happens with this. They don't want to interrupt with this. And
But you're open to going down there and pleading that case and taking a probation on that?
yes, sir, I am.
So what are your plans right now? You about to get an apartment, is that right?
Yes, sir. I already have it lined up and everything.
And where's the apartment?
It's on Random Mill and East Chase.
Were you able to sign the lease in your own name?
Yes, sir.
There's no co-signer to it?
So I haven't really checked my credit out. I might need a co-signer, but my grandparents said they were willing to co-sign for me. But I haven't really checked my credit out too much.
When do you do to make the move?
Whenever my grandparents leave, and they plan on leaving, I believe, in 2 days, 3 days.
Okay. And will you be living alone, or is your girlfriend going to join you at some point? What are your plans there?
I would move in with my girlfriend and we would share rent.
Okay. Is she working?
Yes, sir. Full time.
Okay. What kind of work does she have?
She's a manager at Kroger. She's been working at Kroger for 3 years since she was 16.
Okay. And is she also, my understanding is she might be going to school?
Yes, sir.
Where's she going?
She hasn't yet. She just enrolled for college. And then with everything going on, I think she's going to do online school.
Okay. Do you have any plans to do any kind of college at all yourself?
I want to, yes, sir. I haven't really looked into it, but I've talked about it and I've thought about it multiple times. I would like to get a bachelor's. I would like to get a degree, like Ms. Judd said.
I understand your grandma's moving out the next day pretty soon. Where are you going to be in the interim between your mom, your grandma, and your grandpa moving on down the road? Where are you going to be till you lined up an apartment?
Well, like I said, I already have it lined up. I was just waiting for court to see what happens at court and then all that. And if court goes good, if I get dismissed, I don't have no ask. I don't have to ask nobody can I move in? Can I do this? Can I do that? So if court goes good and everything, I would move in within 2 or 3 days.
What do you think is the reason that you've turned this thing around? You realize a lot of kids will come in and tell the judge, yeah, I'm going to turn it around. What do you think is the thing that caused the light bulb to go off?
Like I said, I just finally, just one point in my life, both of my POs made me realize that, hey, you need to grow up. You need to start thinking about independence and what are you going to do when your grandparents aren't around no more? What are you going to do when your dad isn't or your mom isn't around? And my POs honestly helped me a lot. And then they made me realize what life was all about.
You don't think you're going to backslide?
No, sir.
Why do you say that?
Like Ms. Judd said, it's been 1.5 years and it's kind of hard to fake it that long. I just plan on keep going, keep on working, keep on paying my car payment, I'm going to be an adult. I don't want to be in jail the rest of my life. I don't want to go nowhere.
Anything else you want to add to the judge?
No, sir, Your Honor.
Okay, pass the witness, Judge.
Smith?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Early, the guy that you went around with when you committed these aggravated robberies, does the name J.C. Thomas sound familiar?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know that he ended up getting 15 years in prison for the crimes that y'all committed together?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Do you think it's fair that you only got 10 years probation and you've only served 2 out of those 10 years for the same crime that he committed?
I don't think it's fair, but I mean, there has been things that he did different that I didn't do. He also had the gun in the robbery. He also is the one who threatened the people. Words never came out of my mouth in the robbery. I don't think it's fair, you're right, but 15 years is a lot of time to do. But there is also things that he did different that I didn't do.
So do you think that because you were only with him, because you didn't hold the gun, that you're not responsible for the actions of going in and robbing people?
I'm responsible for it. That's not what I was saying. I was just saying that like he got a higher sentence because I mean he has more charges than me. Also, he has a gun charge, and then I don't have a gun charge. And there's just other things that go with it.
You knew he had the gun and you walked in that store with him in order to rob those people, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am. With the first story, I did not know he had a gun until he pulled it out.
Okay. You said that your employers know about your term on probation.
Yes, ma'am.
You also tell them that you had a pending theft charge.
The first couple jobs I had, like Sonic, I didn't. Well, Six Flags, I would say Six Flags, because I only worked at Six Flags not that long. They didn't know that I had a theft charge pending because the theft charge didn't happen until after I stopped working at Six Flags.
Does GM know?
Yes, ma'am.
You told them?
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you tell your probation officer?
Like they said, I honestly thought they would know because they work for Tarrant County, and I would assume that since I caught a charge that my probation officer would find out because they work for the county.
Why did you tell your probation officer about a speeding ticket but not about a theft charge?
I mean, a speeding ticket isn't a violation of probation, but a theft charge is.
When was the last time you were tested for drugs?
On probation, I have not been tested, but when I started at GM, I got tested.
If the judge were to give you a drug test today, would you test positive?
I would pass.
You would pass. You'd be negative.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Early, I want to talk a little bit about this theft charge that we've kind of been going back and forth about. I know that the defense attorney just asked you to kind of tell the judge what happened. But I feel that you're being a little bit dishonest. Would you agree with that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you remember speaking with the detective?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did he come to your house?
Yes, ma'am.
And were your grandparents there with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember at first that you denied ever even being there?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you deny it to the detective?
Because I was scared. I didn't know what was going on at the time.
Okay. You knew that you had done something wrong, isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And isn't it true that while speaking with the detective, you continued to lie to him about it?
Yes, ma'am.
And isn't it true that it was at the very end when the detective laid out that he knew everything that had happened, that you did confess that you did intend to go there and steal that phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that the only reason that the victim got his phone back is because he saw you were about to run and he fought you to get your property back or his property back?
No, ma'am, that's not true.
That's not what you told the officer or the detective?
That's not true.
But you told the detective that your actions were wrong, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
You told the detective that after you took the phone from the victim that he grabbed you and that y'all began to wrestle. Isn't that true?
No, I did tell him he grabbed me. Yes, ma'am.
And then at that point, it's when you dropped the phone and you ran away. Isn't that true?
No, ma'am. I gave him the phone back. I handed it to him in his hand. And then
Well, why would you hand it back if y'all had just been wrestling over it?
We wasn't wrestling over the phone. We was just wrestling because I tried running. He had the phone. He had the phone in his hand before I started running. And then when I started running, he yanked me and pulled me back. he didn't want me to get away. He wanted to call the cops and tell them that I attempted to take his phone.
That's not what you told the detective, though, is it?
That is what I told him.
Your Honor, just a minute.
Beg your pardon?
Ask for just a minute, Your Honor. Mr. Early, just one more thing. I believe that whenever your defense attorney was talking to you, you told him that you would be okay with continued probation. Isn't that correct?
I said I would like to get it released, but if it comes down to that, I would finish it off.
But didn't you just tell him that you wanted to take probation on your new offense?
On the theft charge, yes, ma'am, I will take probation and finish that off. They offered me 6 months, so I would take that and just finish it out. And they offered deferred probation, so it would come off my record when it was done.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Last time.
Ready for the judge.
Please call your next witness or any exhibits.
I'd call Miss Mudd. Miss Guy, I'm sorry, Miss Guy.
Do I need to move or my dad?
Why don't you go ahead and move?
All right.
Ma'am, would you state your name?
Could you please raise your right hand? All right. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give at this cause currently at trial that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Okay. And you are Miss Phyllis Guy?
Yes, sir.
Great. That's Phylliss.
Phyllis.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Please proceed, Mr. Gladstone.
All right, and you are Jared's grandma's, right? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Paternal grandmother?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're retired military?
Yes, sir.
How long were you in the service?
30 years.
Oh my goodness. And you did duty overseas and
Yes, I returned in 2010 from Iraq. I did 3 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then I retired, came back and retired and helped raise the children, the grandchildren.
thank you for your service. What kind of change did you see, Jared, in Jared over the last couple of years, kind of quickly?
When Jared came up from College Station, he was going through a big turmoil. He's been through a rough time with his parents. We had our challenges when he got on probation. Within the last year, he's done like a 360. He's grown up. I think he's realized now life is too short. With us, he's been going to school. He's trying to go to college. He wants to pick out a career. He hasn't figured out what he wants to do when he grows up and education-wise. He's been working. He's got a car. He's learning to drive, basically. Teenagers just learning to drive, getting his license when he was 18. He's been keeping his room clean, decent, try to get him organized. I'm military, so I'm kind of strict on the kids. So I try to raise him the way I was raised. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. Respect is highly in our family. He's done tremendously. I mean, he's had his ups and downs. I'm not going to sit here and paint a picture, but he's come through a rough life. When he was a teenager, his mother left him when he was only about 10 years old. And his father's in and out of his life. And he's basically been living with us in and out. The last 2 years, 3 years that we've had him, he's done tremendously since this probation mess. Miss Cook and all them has been awesome with him, and Joanne, they've been outstanding supporting him, giving him the guidance. He did his community service through school, and he volunteers to help out wherever is needed. So he's done, I feel he's done really good. He's grown up quite fast. He's grown up the hard way. He's learned the hard way, the things he's been through. A lot of kids ain't never even been through what he's been through. He's got with a bunch of people when he was younger, wrong crowd, as you would say. I keep telling him friends is just a pretty word in the dictionary. He needs to take responsibility and grow up. And I think he's met that match. He's grown up to it now.
You realize a lot of kids will come in, tell the judge they've turned it around and it's a new life and all that kind of stuff. You really think it's stuck with him?
Yes, it was. And I think now that, I've dealt with a lot of kids his age, and even when I was in the military, I've dealt with kids, young troops going through turmoil with families and disruptions, and they go in and totally was obnoxious. And then they go around and say, hey, life's too short. They do a 360 and they change, but you just got to give them the responsibility. And, you got to give them a little leadway and be there to support. If you're not there to support your family, nobody's going to, blood's thicker than water. And that's what we're here for, is to help him get his life on the right track. And I feel 100% he's done that.
And you don't think the fact that you and your husband's moving away is going to kind of knock out the blocks underneath him?
It's not just him, the other 4 children, there's 4 children involved. We got the 15-year-old is going with us. The other ones are doing real good. The oldest daughter's in College Station. She's going to Texas A&M. The oldest son is here in Mansfield. He's got his own business. And Jarrett is working on his goal and career now too. So, and he's got finally settled down with his girlfriend. They went looking for apartments, so they're lining up apartments. So I'm trying to be there for them. I told them I'm only an airplane away, and it's only an hour and a half. I can get on the plane in a minute and be there to support them. And I'll be there whatever they need, I'm here for them. I'm here to support them. I'm at that stage we can, because my husband and I are going back to South Carolina because my husband had a massive heart attack, and that's his home. So he wanted to go back to his home now, and that's what we're planning to do now. And plus, it's hurting me to leave my kids, but it's time for them to grow up and move on with their own lives.
Okay.
I'm depending on Granny, but I'll be here for them no matter what. I'm only a phone call away.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Guy. Pass the witness.
Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mrs. Guy, first, I just want to thank you for your service and for everything you've done for the country.
It was an honor.
You spoke briefly kind of about how actions have consequences. And I just want to ask you that if you were at work and someone came up to you and stuck a gun in your face and demanded money, do you think that 2 years probation is an appropriate consequence for that action?
It all depends on the situation. Matter of fact, I've had that done to me. When I was in Iraq, I had a gun up to me, but I'm very offensive. I can handle myself by controlling it. It depends on the situation. You got to take the pros and cons on the individual. Some people are more mature than others. Some, the lifestyle, I would say, yes, it would be a fair chance. And if anything does happen, if it does backfire down the road, consequences, he's going to end up, I always say, you do the crime, you do the time. And basically these kids know this, and they're not kids no more. They're grown adults. They're not, he'd be 19 tomorrow, and he's came a long ways. And again, I thank CPS, Tarrant County, for awesome supporting him and getting him through the rough time he was had. He had an abusive mother. The kid's been through a lot, this one individually, because when he went there, the mother was really cruel. But now he went with his father. His father got him back on track, brought him back here. Then we had him now, and he's been pretty good now. Knock on wood.
Thank you, Mrs. Guy. I have nothing further.
Mr. Gladstone?
Judge, that's all we have. We rest.
Closings?
Your Honor, I'll waive opening.
Mr. Gladstone?
Judge, I don't know how many times I've heard and you've heard kids come before you and say, Judge, give me one more chance. I'll turn it around. I'm going to do right. And some kids don't make it. Some kids slide by. Some kids just get by. But Jared is an exception, Judge. I mean, at 18 to do all these things to turn it around, it's amazing. I can't imagine me doing that at 18, going out and getting a job that the average person would die for, buying himself a car, completing probation, all these things, working with the probation department. I mean, it's just pretty amazing. And I understand he was involved in a pretty serious offense. There's no diminishing that, whatever. It was 3 armed robberies, hanging around with an older kid, but if there's been a 360 and there's been a kid that's benefited from probation, it is Jared. I mean, I've been coming out here for 30 years and I haven't seen that many success stories. And this kid really, really is. And I understand 2 years probation is not much on a first degree felony, but again, you know, it's standard 2-year probation on a aggravated sexual assaults, and that's what we require there. And I don't think the probation officers could ask anything more. I don't think the court could ask anything more. I think this kid's excelled. He's a 9 or a 10 out of 10, and he's going to make it. If there's a need for probation down the road, he's got a little charge pending downtown. He's going to be an adult. But I'd ask that the court go ahead and discharge today, because he's done everything within the possibility that he could do, and exceeded the expectations. And he's really done what's probation is supposed to do, is get a kid on track. And I really think he's on track. I don't think he's trying to fool the court and hound dogging this thing. It's really insincere, and I think he should get the benefit of that. Thank you.
Actually, I have a question I forgot to ask Mr. Early. I thought I remembered him saying, so the case was filed for 2nd of 18, Ms. Cook, is the theft case in the adult court was the September 2nd of 2018. Is that when it allegedly happened, or is that when the case was filed?
Yes, Your Honor. The date of the offense is September 2nd, 2018. He was then arrested on May 5th, 2019. So it took them, what, 8 months?
Right. Okay. All right, Ms. Smith, your closing.
Yes, Your Honor. The state does want to start out by saying we do recognize the improvement that he's had within this past year. However, the charges that he's on probation for are incredibly serious. You hear it all the time. It's one pull of a trigger away from a capital murder. And he didn't do this not 1, not 2, but 3 times. And he came in here today and he still minimized his actions as to the role that he played in it. I don't know that he understands the severity of what it was that he was doing at that time. It's just 20% of a sentence, 2 out of 10 years on probation is simply not enough in this instance, and for the seriousness of this crime and the violent nature that it was. The second issue is, of course, this theft that we've been talking about. And the theft is horrible because that's just the beginning of an aggravated robbery. The base crime is a theft and being violent while committing that theft. And here he is with the struggle on an offer up 4 months after the court placed him on probation. He didn't tell his probation officer, and I think he didn't tell his probation officer because he knew, as he said, that that was a violation of the law. He had no problem telling his probation officer about getting a tattoo whenever he wasn't of age, getting a speeding ticket, because that's not breaking the law, it's his own words. But with the theft, he didn't say anything, and that's concerning. I know that probation wants to believe that he's being forthcoming, but how can we really know when the past shows us that he's not being forthcoming on charges that are serious, or consequences that have serious, or actions that have serious consequences? Again, he minimized his actions in that case as well. As far as what happened, it wasn't until I had to get him and walk him step by step that he was forthcoming with the court. I think that he has made great improvements, but I think that these improvements still need to be made on a transfer of probation downtown. I think he needs to mature a little bit more, understand the gravity of his actions, and understand that his actions have consequences. Your Honor, for those reasons, the state would ask that he be transferred downtown to adult probation.
So the court, having heard the competent evidence presented at this hearing, I'm just gonna tell you now, Mr. Early, I'm not gonna transfer you to adult probation, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and discharge you. There's a couple things I wanna say to you, right? First of all, it's about your dad, right? Yes. Be careful, right? I know he's been absent most of your life. That's not really a factor for me. I'm just looking at this from just really man to man. He hasn't been there for you. He's made poor decisions being in and out of incarceration, whether jail or prison, right? Now he's back. he may have made changes in his life that were needed and something he should have done way back in the past, or he may not have. You don't know that yet. Just because he's back, don't assume that he's the person that you want him to be. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Maybe. Give him the chance to prove that he is the person that you want him to be. Don't automatically assume that, because there's something about the way your father makes decisions that parallels the decisions that you were making back in 2017, 2018, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what put you in this situation with you and me talking. Your father may be the same person that makes bad decisions. That's not the kind of person you want to be around. Your father may have changed and is a person making great decisions, which evidently you have been for pretty much the last 2 years. If so, then that is the person you want to be. But let him prove that to you. Do not assume that. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Here's a big difference. A lot of this stuff you did when you were 16, and at 16, you just didn't know better. Think about how much more you are responsible and know about life now at almost 19 than you did a couple years ago, right?
Yes, sir.
The crimes that your father was committing, the decisions that he was making as an adult. It's not that he didn't know better. He knew better and chose not to do better, right? What I'm expecting you, and this is why I'm not transferring you, is I'm expecting you to know better and do better because you've shown me that you can. Okay?
Yes, sir.
I'm deeply concerned about this stuff. Don't think that it doesn't mean a lot to me. It does mean a lot because you were on probation on such a serious offense. Judge Menikos just told you he would commit you for 10 years. I think it was Judge Smith told you commit you for 10 years to TJJD and give you the longest possible sentence in order to get probation and put you on the longest possible probation. And just a couple of months later, you think it's right to go ahead and steal, all right? Or the thought goes through your mind at one point. But at some point, the district attorney here didn't decide to violate probation for that. You have to know that that theft wasn't just a theft, a misdemeanor theft. They could have filed it as a felony theft from person, okay? And so you have to understand that the detective may have been nice to you, the DA here may have been nice to you at the time, for whatever reason, but you should be aware that these juvenile cases, these aggravated robberies can be used against you in adult courts. Okay? You have to know that just because it's juvenile doesn't mean it goes away. It can be used against you in certain situations in trial. So don't think that you are done with all this. This is your past that can come back and haunt you for the rest of your life. Imagine if you're looking at a trial for a theft from person over a phone, and during punishment, it goes out to the jury that he's been adjudicated delinquent on 3 counts of aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon, holding up liquor stores and convenience stores. As uncomfortable as you were with Ms. Smith asking these questions, think of how uncomfortable you're going to be at an adult trial where you're looking at, 2 to 10 years in prison, okay, for stealing a phone. Right. So in your case, and this is just so the attorneys understand, the greatest concern for me is the violence. You've shown me that you haven't escalated. You haven't, the violence of the aggravated robbery is really what keeps me up at night. No fights, no other robberies, things like that. That has a large part of my decision in this case, okay? Jared, this is kind of a gut check, but you're not a very good criminal, okay? I need you to understand that.
Yes, sir.
You're not very lucky either. And that's a horrible, horrible combination, all right? You get caught for what you do. And when I hear things about your car wreck that you have to deal with at such a young age with a major accident, you getting caught for these different crimes, all these things coming up, I think that you kind of need to accept your fate. If you're ever tempted to break the law, you just have to accept the fact that you're just the kind of person that's going to get caught, right? Some people are lucky, some people are not. You're not. Right? If there's an incentive for you just to stay on the right side of the law and not break the law, you just got to say, hey, if your friends are egging you on, be like, buddy, I'm unlucky. Like, if you do this around me, you might get caught too. That's my bad luck. Stay on the right side of things. You ever go to church?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You know the parable of the talents in Matthew? It talks about the master left 3 slaves, one with 10 talents, 5 and 1 talent,
Yes,
and
sir.
left. And the 3 slaves decided to do what they wanted to do. The one with 10 buried it, did nothing. And that was the person that the master was upset with, master being God, right? And the one that had 1, the one that had 5, did something with it, right? They doubled their money. But you have to remember, it's in life, you have to think about how did you use your time? You weren't given much in this life, Jared. Okay? You kind of got a raw deal on this one with your parents. And I get that. But at this point, going forward, what are you doing? I guarantee that the decisions, no matter what the decisions your father made when he was younger, there's nothing in the world your father, your mother, wherever she may be, or your grandmother want than for you to do better than they did. They really, really want that. And that's Ms. Cook, Ms. Judd, and Ms. Smith, even the prosecutor. They all want you to do well in life. That's the concern. There is no shame in doing better than they did. Okay? So you take the talents that you have, take your situation, as unfortunate as your childhood was, and make something great out of that. That's a story that you want to tell people. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir.
right. So I'm letting you know, I'm not, and the basis for my concern, Ms. Smith, I get it. It's 2 years. I'm not happy with it. At the end of the day, what this court has to consider is the danger to the community, is the rehabilitation process. I don't think that 2 years of, and I want to get this straight. I do not think 2 years of probation on aggravated robbery is appropriate. But I think if I was to transfer you, it becomes into a punishment issue than a rehabilitation issue. I think you have been rehabilitated. I think you're very low risk for reoffending. You had the recommendation by both Ms. Judd and Ms. Cook to discharge you from probation. If I was putting you on adult probation, it almost becomes a punishment issue, and I'm not supposed to punish children for juvenile acts. It is by your luck that this happened when you were 16 and not 17, because you would have gotten a lot of time if you were 17. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So come in, say hi, Jared, if you ever want, or don't come in the building at all. That's up to you. Okay? But I want you to do well.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate it.
It's the legislature prioritizing it.
Well,
But I do
good to
believe.
know. I'm glad you
but-
shook your
but
head.
I
'Cause
firmly
I was over
believe-
there like, yeah, true. I was like right along with them.
No, really.
What's wrong with me?
But you just, I agree, this is the place we have the best chance of making
Rehabilitating.
long-term change. So
Right.
we should be focused on that.
Yeah.
For me, punishment should be kind of the punishment in the form of jail time should be our last,
Resort.
that's our last resort.
Yeah.
Punishment in a consequences, we should do that because children need consequences. They need to know what their lanes are and
Right.
they feel safe when they're in them.
They want boundaries.
They do, they truly do,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
look at it as these are your children and you're their parents and you're trying to make them safe for everyone around them. That's part of it.
Yeah.
You just can't be too attached to your children,
Yeah.
these particular children.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I wouldn't be surprised if mine gets pushed after detention dockets because Kim's supposed to do detention.
I wonder why. Is he just doing the initial ones?
I don't know.
Maybe Cynthia's out, and maybe
Porter's
Andy's out.
doing some.
Then Cynthia may not be here.
Yeah. Interesting.
Judge Sherry.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go. What time is it? I'll tell Hannah that I'll take detention.
Okay, thanks,
Or
Andy.
whichever one. Well, I guess.
Okay, don't let Yvonne see that I have my mask off.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a picture.
We're 6 feet
I'm gonna
away.
take a picture and post it on the
Post on the intraweb.
yeah, on the internet and be like, this is us at Juvie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did you receive a phone call from anyone yesterday?
Was I supposed to?
Uh,
I think I thought you only get phone calls if you test positive. Then they ask you like who
Yeah,
you've been around.
I got a call from the head of our civil division last night. She asked me a few questions and
Yeah.
are all of your people out there keeping their close contact logs? I'm like, I don't know.
I have not been keeping
I'm
logs.
guessing. I'm guessing not, but I don't know.
Well,
Everyone's been told to.
I thought I understood that as like if you're in court doing hearing, like, but if you're on Zoom, I mean, I'm not having close contact with people.
But this probably qualifies.
Yeah, I guess this would be.
So like when I walk in.
Your mic is still on.
Oh.
Mr. Shipley, are you there? Ms. Farmer, are you there? Oh, you're on.
Yes, Judge, I'm here.
Are you the one for Frank Adler for Brian Oxford?
Yes, Judge, I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we
Yes,
go.
Your Honor, I'm present also.
Okay, so Mr. Reyes is here. Mr. Adler, his client is invoking his Sixth Amendment right to confrontation. So it's going to be an in-person hearing inside the courtroom. So we'll have to
Are we all starting?
exert appropriate social distancing measures, but I'm going to find this essential hearing to have in person. Ms. Farmer, you're on mute. Ms. Farmer?
Excuse me, Judge, may I have just a moment?
Sure. Oh, yeah, not a problem.
Thank you.
Judge Porter know to put me at the top of the list.
No, he does not.
Can I text him? Yeah, we don't.
Bernie's on vacation. Terry, the bailiff.
Oh, I don't have her cell phone. What to do this verbally?
Judge Kim, are you there?
I am.
Judge, I was planning on calling Mr. Shipley as a witness, and it doesn't appear that he is in the courthouse. So do we know what time this hearing would be? I'm presuming we're going to need to give Mr. Shipley some time to come out here.
Right. It'd be this morning, whatever time is needed. I've got a 1 hour dispo contest this afternoon, so we can do it this afternoon if needed. When's this child's birthday?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay. So we'll have to do it this afternoon. I mean, I think I have authority to extend the deadline, but I'd rather not. So, Mr. Shipley, can you be here this afternoon?
Your Honor, it'd take me approximately an hour or so to get there from my house. I could be there 11:30, 12:30, whatever the court needs.
Okay. Well, we have a 1:30 contested disposition that Ms. Uzoihe has asked for an hour for. So do we just want to schedule this for 3 o'clock? Does that sound okay?
That's fine with the state, Your Honor.
That'll work for me, Your Honor.
Okay. So we'll do this. Mr. Adler, you can do 3 o'clock? Mr. Adler? Frank Adler? Frank Adler. He's in this courtroom. He's on his phone. Mr. Adler? Oh, he had his earphones in. So Mr. Shipley is remote. So to get him here, can we do this at 3 o'clock today?
Yeah.
You have time? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do Oxford at 3 o'clock.
Okay, Judge. We'll
Okay.
see you then.
Thank you, Ms.
All right,
Reyes.
we'll be there, Your Honor.
Thank you. See y'all then.
Thank you.
Thank you.